Hello, lovely people. Welcome to today's edition. As you know, every week we try to bring you special guests to share their experience with you all. To our viewers who are watching live and who are watching pre recorded, welcome. Guess what? Today we have our special guest, and he's no other person than one pharmacist, a specialist. He's more experienced in the pharmacy industry. Growing up, I've known one of the countries which are very best in the pharmaceutical industry to be India. And today we have our special guest who is from India, but he is not working in India. He has been working in China for over several years, more than 10 years now. And he has gained so many experience in the pharmaceutical industry in China. Apart from working in China, he has worked in UK and even in India for some time. Therefore, we have no option than to invite such a specialist, somebody with an experience in most of the developed countries we can think of. Without wasting my time, let us welcome our special guest. He is no other person than Mr. Pinkesh. Hello, sir.
Thank,
Welcome.
thank you, Dax. Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be finally we have this podcast. As you explained, I mean, I come from I bring the different background from
Yeah.
R&D to the business background. So it would be interesting to have a conversation, and hopefully people will find it interesting and helpful to them as well.
Wow. Interesting. In fact, when I was trying to invite you, I didn't think you might accept this invite. I was like, this kind of big person, will he even accept for Dax to have a conversation with him? So I must say, I really appreciate for honoring our invite. When we talk about you coming from India, which part of India? We know India is so big, and so yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, originally from the place called Gujarat is next to the Mumbai, and the
Okay.
Gujarat is PM Prime Minister Modi, Indian Prime Minister's hometown. So
Oh, okay.
the people quite now knows, but the Mumbai is probably because it's a main industrial hub. Many people know the Mumbai. So my house is around 3 hours from Mumbai. So it's a
Yeah.
kind of border of between the Maharashtra and Gujarat. So but I'm original from Gujarat. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Interesting. I think I need to know much about India and their districts or regions. Well, in me, I'm from Ghana, and in Ghana, when you are growing up, every parent would like you to be a doctor, a pharmacist,
Right.
these
Right.
things. And I know India has got this big industry. Is it the main reason why you also went into pharmacy?
It's not the main same reason, but the trend is pretty similar. The Indian parents prefer
Yeah,
their children to be doctor or scientist or so on. But in my case,
yeah,
it's little different. Um, the my original idea to go into the pharma industry is from childhood days. Obviously, there are multiple factors gone into this decision, but
yeah.
when I was young kid, I went with my mom to the very remote farm from the city, right, to
Okay.
cut the grass because we used to have a dairy business on those days when I was very young. Um,
Yeah.
and while cutting the grass, there is a special equipment called it's like a dagger, a very sharp knife that you use to cut the grass. And I
Okay.
cut my finger very badly, and I lost
Oh.
conscious completely. I become
Mm.
unconscious. Black. I couldn't see anything. I don't know what happened to me. And as you remember, on those days, this is I mean talking about 1980. Probably 90s, right? So there is no mobile phone on
Whoa.
those days, no mobile
Yes,
phone,
yes.
and no the motorbike or
Transport.
something, right? So
Yes.
you have my mom has to think very fast and very quickly without thinking too much. And in
Yes.
India, I mean, I'm sure the even in the Africa and the Ghana, probably the people using a lot of herbs for their daily lives, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
in
yeah.
India,
Very
we
much.
know certain herbs for certain use. For example, you might say if you have a cardamom, it might be more digestive properties and so on. So you might know already. But
Yeah.
so similarly, the villagers knew that there is a some grass that you can, if you can crush it and I can put it on your wound, it can stop the bleeding. We know
Chill.
that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yes.
but the find that one very quickly and make a decision is important. And my mom had a is a brave lady, right? So she
Yeah.
found some grass, she crushed the grass and put on my finger, and
Oh
obviously the
wow.
water we had for drinking water, so she sprinkled some water on my face, and after a few minutes I become conscious. So that's how, that's
Wow.
the, I mean, kind of you went to the heaven or hell and come back, right? Story. So we know
Yeah.
the herbs play an important role. We do know that,
Yes.
but and there are multiple stories. The anti-cancer drug come from vinca plant, right? The
Yeah.
docetaxel come from the herbs and so on. There are many stories we heard, but in order to have a dose successful molecule commercialized, making a multi-million or multi-billion-dollar drug, you need to go
Yes.
through, you need to extract the chemical constituents from herbal, and then you have to go
Yes.
through the clinical trials, and then you have to do the regulatory approvals and so on. And that is not
Yeah.
easy, that is not easy. The biotech industry is quite a risky business, but that is the main idea for me to
Amazing.
move into the pharma business. And also as you might know, I used to have a senior college colleague, and he used to say the
Yeah.
pharma industry is the evergreen industry. And he means as long as people survive on this earth, they're going to need medicine. So the medical business is
Yeah.
not going to go outside of your field, right? Maybe the
Yeah.
computer might go and some AI will come up and something, but in medicine, it's going to be there forever. As long as human
Forever.
or animal is there, is going to be there business. So that is another factor probably put in my head little bit to make my decision in going to the pharma. But you are right.
Wow.
I mean, the cultural difference is not that
Parents.
great. Come to the African or Indian parents, it's the same.
Oh wow, interesting. I think I have similar story to yours. Why I also ventured into pharmacy. Those who
Right.
don't know, I'm currently offering my masters in pharmaceutics, and we
Right.
are my research area is control release drug delivery system. So
Okay.
yeah,
Okay. So
yeah.
pretty similar
So
field, right? Okay.
yeah. So my main reason why I also went into pharmacy was when I was young, I never liked medicine. Medicine is
Okay.
something I hated. Every time I don't take medicine until I go seriously sick. And
Okay.
I was almost dying. I was suffering. So during that time, I had one man who suggested some small drug tablet. He gave
Okay.
this tablet to me, and when I took this tablet, immediately all the pain. It was a stomach ache. Immediately, I was freed. I didn't suffer again till now. I never had that stomach ache. I was like, wow. So that small drug is so powerful. That
Right.
little drug. So that made me to think of how that is being creative, that is being powerful, that is being a magician. How can that small drug be able to change my life, change my everything? So that really inspired me to also go into the pharmacy industry. And as you said, it will never run out of life,
Right.
pharmacy industry, no matter what. So far we have human beings and everything, and that is where we are all here now. Wow, interesting. To our viewers who are watching live, we have one of our special guests who is having so many experience in the pharmaceutical industry, especially in China. He has worked in several industries in China for more than 10 years now. If you have any question, you can comment in the comment section, or you can join this live at a time to ask any question about this conversation. Wow, interesting. Looking at your background after venturing into pharmacy, I realized you shifted all of a sudden from pharmacy into MBA, going for business administration. What inspired you? Because usually, what we know is if you are into pharmacy, you have to specialize in a specific area in pharmacy. If it's PhD, you specialize in pharmacy. What made you diverted so big like that?
No, I mean, Dax, I come from the business family. Even though my family is
Okay.
based mainly focused on the jewelry business and the real estate. So my
Yeah.
dad runs the diamond manufacturing unit, and my brother and sister runs the showroom for the jewelry, for the diamond and golds.
Yeah.
Brother runs in India, sister runs in New Jersey. So we have a family business. So the entire family is in the jewelry business. I'm the only one exception in pharmacy, you see. So
Oh,
and that is one. Also, one of the factor was from family point of view. Dad was interested. Having two sons, one can go back to the jewelry industry. One should be having something
something
diversified.
different.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
because you don't want to put all people in one business, right?
One
So
basket.
right,
Yeah.
so that was a one of another factor that probably contributed me to go into the pharmacy. But from so when I was in London doing my
Yes.
bachelor's and BSc honors pharmacology, and I
Yeah.
started working with big R&D institutes, including the DEFRA, King's College. I done
Yeah.
my little summer work in the King's College, and then I started working with Cambridge University as well on the pancreatic cancer. And so I spent a lot
Yeah.
of time on the R&D sites. And when I was in UK, I come from
Yeah.
business background, so I decided to do MBA because at some point, for
Yes.
me, it's not just R&D. I would like to become entrepreneur one day in the biotech or pharma industry, right? So
Yes.
MBA was a natural choice for me. Once I got an MBA, I thought maybe it's time for me to move into the business world, and that's bring me to the China. Story come back, but in UK my major work was on the R&D on the different diseases within the DEFRA,
Yeah.
and the King's College, and the Cambridge University.
Oh wow. Interesting. So looking back from the years till now, going into the business industry alongside with your pharmacy, do you think it's worth it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't. It was a great. I mean, the whole idea was for me to go into the business world at some point, either in the jewelry or into the pharma or the biotech, right? And once I
Yes.
completed uh, the R&D part of it, so it's better to you should know the R&D part of it. If you really want to do business, you should know the science. So if you don't know the science, it's hard to sell your science to the rest of the world, right? So
Yeah.
the science was important to me. So the background was important. Once I know the background, this was for
Yeah.
me because, as I said, at the before we started the stream, we talked about a little bit my background working in India, back home
Yeah.
at a young age, right? So I
Yeah.
had that business mind in myself from the very early age. It's just matter of time. What would be the
Yeah.
good time for me to move into the business side? But the good part of business side in the pharma is you have an opportunity to bring the very good science into the market, right? And
Okay.
if you really a capable person, then there are a lot of science goes around our life, right? And a lot of
Yeah.
people will develop a lot of science, carry out a lot of science, they spend a lot of money, but if the person is not right to bring that medicine, that science into
Marketing.
the commercial world, it will be not feasible,
Be
right?
useless. Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, I noticed that having a business field and get the business done is going to be more important than just R&D. And uh, I over the last 10 years I had a chance to visit almost 70, 80 different pharmaceutical and biotech events. I met almost 1,000 CEOs doing a lot of R&D work, and
Yes.
it was interesting. You get to learn a lot of different unique people. You build the network, and then once you build a long network, you do
Yeah.
know what who is the right person to take that science into the commerce part, right? Because you can't
Yeah.
able to do yourself everything, so you need to
Yeah.
find the business
Exactly.
partner, and you need to build a partnership worldwide in order to bring the molecule worldwide. So
Yeah. Wow.
yeah, I mean overall I enjoyed completely. I don't think I would ever, I mean during the COVID I've been advised by one of my mentor, probably it's time to go back to R&D because business is struggling, right? um,
Yeah.
and the economy was going down, and one of my mentors suggested Pinkesh probably good time to be back into the R&D sides. And
Back to your old days.
right, but no, I think I completely enjoy the business side of it. It's challenging. It will keep you busy day and night, right? And it's
Yeah.
really rewarding. You really, I really enjoy it doing it. Also, I like to work under pressure. And in the business
Okay.
world, the pressure, the R&D side, little bit less pressure compared to the business side. And I
Yeah.
enjoy those pressure, working on the pressure and bringing those medicine to the market. So yeah, I
Wow.
mean, it's totally worth it. Totally worth it.
Wow. Interesting. I'm glad you are saying it's totally worth it. I don't know if there's any pharmacy business administration. I don't know if there's any specific field like that. I've never come across it. If there's not, do you think we should consider having a specialized pharmacy business administration? Because from what you said, it's very true. Because we invest a lot into drugs and what, at the end of the day, if we don't have someone who can really sell it well for us, how are we going to make the profit? So do you think we should really get a specific pharmacy business administration, something like that, just for
No,
pharmacists?
no, I mean, it would be a good idea to have someone specialized from the early age, right? I mean, in our case, in
Yeah.
pharmacy, when we studied in India, I don't know about the rest of the world, but in India, there is a specific
Yeah.
subject you have for for a pharmaceutical business, and we do learn a little bit
Oh,
basics
okay.
there. Yeah, but I don't know the rest of the world. Um, but you are right. I mean, there is no specific pharmaceutical business stream from the bachelor's master to you can develop, right?
Exactly.
No, no, not
Yeah.
really. Yeah, but I think probably reason is I said because the scientific background is important, and if you really focus entirely on business, probably the difficult to change from just the business side to scientific side. So probably good idea to have a little bit science, but it could be probably there is a gap in market that have a probably science and business brought together for certain people who can probably develop business
Yeah.
entirely from the bachelors and masters and so on.
Yeah. Wow. Interesting. You have really made me thought about that field because we there's a very big gap. Most people who are into business do not know much of the science. And you
Right.
mentioned if you are very good in the science, then it's very easy to market it. So I think the pharmacy industry in the future should really think about something like that, and that will also help grow our business. Wow, interesting. I realized you were working in the UK industry. Comparing the UK industry, pharmaceutical industry, to China, what made you change that? This made you have that bold decision, leaving UK to China?
No, I think the leaving UK was there are multiple factors. As you know from our multiple conversation, I like to try something new, right?
Yeah,
So for me, trying something new is nothing new. I left the house very early, young age. I spent most of
yes,
my life outside of the house, right? So for me, trying
yeah,
different things is not a new. It's common for me. I know the many people that trying something new is a very difficult. Sometimes I do get a little bit uh, hesitated to try something new, but it's a common life
yeah.
for me. I like to try something new, but the main reason was the family. As you know, I'm kind of some of friend of mine told me that you are half Chinese now, because I spend more majority of time in China. My family is Chinese. You know that now. So
Yeah,
but I think that is one of the reasons. But another thing is, you see, in China there are 5,000 pharmaceutical companies. In the UK, you hardly have a 25, 30. Yeah, you hardly count them. The good thing is about the UK is a quite robust and well respected
yeah.
industry. So if you're working into those pharmaceutical company, that would be some Pfizer, GSK, or Eli Lilly,
Exactly.
very right. So the experience level
Yeah,
will be completely different. Similar with the R&D side. So if you are into the R&D, you would be working with some Cambridge University, Cancer Research, or
yeah,
King's College, or UCL, or someone. So that is probably well-known institute, DEFRA, and so on. So that is a completely different
yeah,
experience altogether. But then China, it was back in 2015. China was growing like anything. It was
yeah,
very fast growing. Also, the Chinese economy was getting very robust on those days. Obviously, later on, the things got slowed down a little bit, but still, it's a big market. The opportunity is
Yeah.
completely different. Also, what I find is a Chinese culture is very common to Indian culture, very similar to culture.
Oh,
So
okay.
that helps a little bit for me. Yeah, yeah. And As you can see, there are 5,000 companies, so the amount of opportunity is quite
It's
diverse.
so
It's not,
high.
yeah,
Y-
quite diverse. So if you for entrepreneurs, if you have entrepreneurs mind, this is a very good opportunity for you to try something
Good
new,
area.
right? Whereas in
Oh,
UK you
wow.
have a limited things you can try out, right? So and China is a completely all different market. Come to, for example, the government policies is really great. The
Yeah.
amount of investment came into biotech is huge, right, over the last few years. um, yeah,
Okay.
it's very fast growing. You can do things in a very fast pace,
As
even compared
compared
to
to
the
the
India
UK.
or any other country, UK or developing country or developed country. You can compare it to
Yeah.
the rest of the world, and the China is completely different league. We were talking with one of the former CEO that in
Yeah.
order to build the recently airport built in UK, they took many years to get land acquisition. In China, you can probably get it in a few days, right? Um,
Exactly.
so
Yeah.
the here also the infrastructure is ready in China. If you want,
Yeah.
I remember the story. I used to have my own startup for the medical device, and I used to develop the
Oh,
medical
okay.
device for leg also. And the equipment I
Cool.
need majority come from Shenzhen actually while I was in UK.
Oh,
So you can imagine the things you can get easily here if you really want to build something.
in
Infrastructure
China.
is ready,
Yeah.
the supply chain is there. Also, it's cheap compared to the other world, right?
Other
So
world. Yeah.
the China is the ideal place. I mean, if you are an entrepreneur, this is the best place for you to develop something new, right?
Wow. Interesting. I heard you mentioned in the UK is the pharmaceutical industry is more respected. Are you
Mm.
saying in China it's not that really respected the pharmaceutical
No, I
industry?
think China pharmaceutical industry is a completely unique. It is respected, obviously. Their regulatory standard is completely different. What I mean is, UK
Yeah.
pharmaceutical industry is well known for, as I already mentioned you. There are 25, 30
Yes.
companies, which is AstraZeneca, Pfizer, Eli Lilly. That is all known to globally, right? So the
Exactly.
difference,
Yeah.
that's how the branding is. Those are the big pharma companies down there. So the amount of company, for example, I would be working in the domestic company, maybe many people in the world don't know, but the Pfizer, everybody know that is a top one company in the world, right? So
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
probably the respect, probably not the right word, but it's like a well known or well branded product in UK,
Yeah.
whereas in China probably, for example, the former company I work for is a Beijing based. They are mainly domestic company, right? So it's well known
Yeah.
in China, but probably not many people in the world knows. Obviously, because we done a lot of international business development and marketing and branding, many people knows us at that time. But still, normal
Yeah.
people wouldn't know that company, right?
Exactly. Yeah. 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 That's really, really true. To our viewers who are watching live, yes, we have our special guest, Pinkesh. He's specialized in the pharmaceutical industry in China, in UK, and even in India. And today he's sharing his story and his experience with us. If you have any question, you can comment in the comment section, or you can join this live through a link session to ask any question. Wow, interesting. For me, whilst in Ghana, I know India to have one of the best pharmaceutical industries. And
Right.
coming to China, you personally, you being an Indian and you have worked in China for several years, what do you think make difference between the India pharmaceutical industry and China pharmaceutical industry?
I think, believe it or not, I didn't have a chance to much work in India, even though I'm Indian, because I done my
Yeah,
bachelor's, masters in UK, and I had started my career in
yeah,
UK, and later on I moved to China. So I had a limited exposure to the Indian side. But you are right. I mean, so Indian pharmaceutical
yes,
company is well known, right? Especially the generic
yeah,
industry in India, it's quite robust. But
Yeah.
the China is a quite completely different market. You cannot compare India Chinese market, Indian pharmaceutical market and Chinese pharmaceutical market. They are completely distinct and different.
Yeah.
But even in generic, API actually mostly come from China to the world, right? So the even in generic API
Yeah.
industry, China is much advanced, especially their capability on the global, especially the large scale manufacturing on the API is quite robust. So uh,
Yeah.
that is one part of it. Another part of it is I have a theory that once the economy becomes stronger, people have a more spending power, right? When the people have a more spending power, they
Yes.
expect good medicine, so they have a spending power for a patented
Exactly.
product, right? So I can give you the example of Japan.
Yeah.
Many years ago, Japan was having a robust generic pharma. Later on, generic pharma
Yes.
become less and less important. There is a mainly biotech market. All the patented molecule is available there in Japan, right? So similar Japanese way, I
Yes.
think the China is going the same way. Chinese economy is quite strong, even though we got Chinese economy become a little bit slow down during the COVID and is still recovering now. But it's a big market, it's a big
Yeah.
economy, not gonna change in a very dramatic way, right? It's gonna be pretty
Of
similar.
time.
And the people still have a spending power, so they are demanding the more patented molecules. So I think it's going to the biotech phase. A lot of the people have a spending power, the government putting a lot of
Yeah.
new policies such as volume based procurement. Basically it's a tendering process, right? So um, that is a completely
Yeah.
altogether different market. So to give you an idea, it's completely different market. But having said that, I did have an option to work in India if I really want to, but the families around in China, probably it doesn't make sense for me to make a big move right now. But option is there. Option is
Yeah.
definitely there. Right.
Wow, interesting. I think you are the first person, what first Indian I've met having a Chinese family, like to say. And I know so many people are also curious about that. Maybe in the future, probably we might even talk about that experience to the other world as well.
Sure, sure,
Wow,
sure.
interesting. Yeah, interesting. That is really true. I personally coming to China and living in China, like the population range, I could see several opportunities, very big
Right,
opportunities as in China. And it's really true. China being a business hub, the production capacity is so high and so fast. So
right,
with this, and after COVID, they've been able to overcome this COVID. I think it will really boost this pharmaceutical industry in China the more. Yeah. Just imagining them building a hospital in 1 month, which I
right,
think
correct,
is never possible in Ghana. I don't know of India, but
right. It's not
so
possible in India either. I think this is China's main advantage. They can get things done fast. It's not just
yeah,
government regulation. You also need a huge amount of resources, right? Supply chain, material, and
exactly.
everything. And
Yeah,
probably the Chinese. I have another theory that you can pick up the any product in the world, and
yeah,
if the one component of that product didn't come from China, I don't think that is possible, right? Um, so you can imagine that China is well placed for its infrastructure, for its supply chain, its
yeah,
government regulations and everything. So I mean that is the advantage that China is having, and a good opportunity for people like us who can who knows them, who want to who have entrepreneur mindset and who want to make a difference in the people's
yes.
life. I think it's a good place.
Yeah, wow, interesting. Yeah, just to even chip this one in, for you, you had a family that really motivated you. Could you say it's because you had a Chinese family, that is why you got an opportunity to work in the pharmaceutical industry in China? I personally, I think you are the first foreigner for me to meet working in the pharmaceutical industry. We have several students who study in China, but they don't have the opportunity to work in the medical field, even in the hospitals and staffs. I don't know, is it ignorance that I don't know, or there is because of you having a Chinese family?
No, there is a literally no. My Chinese family connection is limited, very limited actually. When
Okay.
I came, I think the timing is different. Nowadays, obviously the COVID time. I think a lot of people came in around 2019-20 around COVID time. The economy would slow down,
Yes.
so the finding job was a little bit hard. But when I came in 2015, it was very easy for me.
Yes.
Within 2 weeks, I had a multiple offer. In fact, I had to start negotiating with two companies together to change my
Oh,
um,
really?
salary. That many job offer was available on those days. And also the at those days the foreigner were very limited, right? And another thing is, I
Yeah.
think I am well placed because you in the business in pharma you needed multiple skill. For example, you need to have a good English, which I have. You need to have a good
Yes.
science, which I have. You need to have a business background, which I have. Another extra skill I have is
Oh,
a personal skill. Because I grown up outside house from very young age, I managed to
yes.
build up the network worldwide. I can get along with anyone from any background, any religious background, any ethnicity. I can get along very easily.
Yes.
One of my supervisor from UK is a British lady, but Turkish origin. Her husband is from
Yes.
Egyptian origin, right? My former boss is Chinese, but he
Yes.
almost become my family. I worked there for 9 years, right? Um,
Yes.
I can go on. I mean, I have a friend in the Asia, in Bangladesh, Pakistan, whom I can call
Almost
and get the
everywhere.
insight. Right, right. So you do develop over because
Yeah.
you work for a long time, and you develop a very good personal skill. You are easily get along with people. You
Yes.
can make a friendship, and those friendship uh, is helpful for your business, because if you don't have those skill, it's not easy to get on. So I think the skill is important. Another thing, I think that one of
Wow.
the probably your theory might right, because if you are foreigner and if you don't speak Chinese, it's difficult to get into hospital
Yes.
field. Um,
Yeah.
Also, I am unique because my skill set is unique because I had the two chance. Even though I'm Indian, but I had a chance to study in UK, work in UK, and
Yes.
with prestigious university. So I think that helped me a little bit. Um, but I think if you even in China, I mean, another thing is you really have to figure out how to find the job, because even in COVID, I had a good job offer from, as you know, I just changed that
Yeah.
company just 3 4 months ago, right? So
Yes.
I had a few options to choose from. So I think it probably finding the right platform, right channel, right people to get into the job market, I think.
Wow. Interesting. That's so interesting. It's not really about relationship, having a family, but it's about the skill. And that is very important. It's really true. And I personally, living in China for several years, I've realized that there's nothing you can not do without business. And
Right,
you having a business background makes you a great niche, like
right,
in high
right,
demand. Yeah,
right,
having the science and the business, like it really makes you in high demand. And in fact, I think that is the best decision you have ever taken.
right, right,
Very
right.
good decision going into
No,
the
I
business.
mean,
I,
the
yeah,
family side, there is a little bit. I mean, I probably would be wrong saying that it doesn't help, because my wife is
yeah,
Chinese, you know, and she
yes,
obviously this new the current job I changed is completely independently I done myself. But in the past, she used to have
yes.
do a lot of help for me. And my wife is a very she traveled a lot, different
Oh,
worlds. She used to work in the pharmaceutical even industry, right? So she had a chance to visit
oh, okay.
multiple country, and she's a very clever lady. And
Yes,
she's very efficient, knows how to deal with governments, knows how to deal with different people, and that helps as a family. Obviously that helps, but
yes.
I think the finding
The
job, the
main,
family maybe not the only option. You must have a skills. Family
yeah.
maybe a little bit help, but not that much, right?
Wow, interesting. I personally, when I was about to graduate from my bachelor, I was really in dilemma. I didn't know what field I should really go into. I was
Right,
just pharmacology, pharmaceutics. I was just applying every program,
Right, right, right,
and
right,
I didn't have somebody to really direct me. And luckily, I had admission for a scholarship to one university, Suzhou University, and it was pharmaceutics. And I'm happy it's something I really love. I'm
right.
really enjoying what I'm doing. But after this, I was really doubted. After this, what should I really do?
Right.
Trust me, having you on this platform has given me the best direction to go to. And I know you know that direction.
Right, right,
That
right.
should be something like business. If I'll do any program after this, will be business. And thank you very much for being the guide and the director in my career. I really appreciate that.
You're welcome, Dax, and you have my contacts and everything, right? Right now, the things got a little bit
Yes,
busy from last 3 4 months because there was a little bit change of cities and jobs and so on. But
yes,
normally, I'm quite easily approachable. More than happy to help anyone who will need, even from your audience, if they need any help, they can email
yes.
us or they can connect us. More than happy to help. But
Wow.
overall, I mean, it's a good place. I mean, it's you need to find the right place and the right people at right time.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's not easy. It's tough market out there right now. But overall, it's good. It's all good. It's all good.
Wow, interesting. Thank you very much. You have worked in China for several years, being a director, being in different work nature and working. What has been one of your biggest challenges working in China in the pharmaceutical industry?
I think the language barrier probably the biggest challenge, right? But
Yeah.
my major focus is international business, so there is a limitation. So mostly English work involved, right? So I
Yes.
don't have that much issue, but this is quite common even for me. Obviously, I live in 10 years. My family is Chinese. I can speak a little bit Chinese, but not.
Mm.
I didn't study properly Chinese,
Chinese.
so the
Yeah.
Chinese could be a little bit challenging. Language skill could be a little bit challenging. But over the last 10
Yeah.
years, as you know, I studied quite AI quite earlier on. So 80%, 80-90% of my work involved AI. Including translation and everything, right? Even
Yes.
my former company, most of the presentation would be in Chinese, and even though I don't know Chinese, I would easily implement them using AI, right? And
Yeah.
I can manage quite well over the last 10 years. Another thing was a culture, uh, Chinese culture is a little unique, and we must
Yeah.
understand that culture in order to deal with them accordingly, right? Every culture is a little different, and if you know the culture,
Yes.
you know how to deal with. I mean, not just to deal with. I mean, you can then get along with everybody quite nicely. So I think that is the
Yes.
main probably challenge. Otherwise, then it's absolutely fine for me. And as I spend majority of my life on the outside of a house, it's not easy. It's easy for me to manage anyone or anything. It's not a big issue. But if I knew the language, probably the pay scale would be much higher. Right. Um,
Yeah.
right.
Wow, yeah, interesting. So far, all the guests I've had, I think about 90% of them, their biggest challenge in China is always language. And
Right. Right.
I
Right.
think, indeed, if somebody is also thinking of coming to China or doing anything with China, you should consider the language if possible. But
Right.
even if the language, it will still be a challenge, that shouldn't be disturbed them, that shouldn't prevent them because of even the AIs you mentioned and the technology in China sometimes is very easy to even overcome this kind of language challenges in China. Yeah,
Yeah, no,
interesting.
it's absolutely right. So in Beijing, my family was there, so helped me with everything, right? But now I changed the
Yeah,
city completely, where no one is here to help me, and I can manage absolutely fine. I can manage absolutely fine without knowing proper
yeah,
Chinese, right? So it is easily manageable. But if it is, if you know the Chinese language, it become much easier to deal with business, daily lives,
yeah,
and so on. And you know, if you talk in for Indian language, if you are talking to Indian in Indian language, the thing conversation is completely different, right? Different level. So
Exactly.
yeah, obviously it's good to learn Chinese little bit, even if you don't
Wow.
properly. Little bit, a few words can go long way, I think.
Basics. Yeah. Wow. Interesting. Upon working in this pharmaceutical industry in China for several years, what kind of opportunities and collaborations do you see in the upcoming future?
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked a little bit about the changing industry, right? The Japan way, right?
Yes.
From generic towards the biotech.
Yes.
So I think in China is going to be a similar story. I think the generic industry is going to getting more and more smaller. The biotech industry will
Okay.
be much much advanced. As you can see, the CAR Ts and cell therapy and gene therapy already in China, right? Available there.
Yes.
um,
Very
so
much.
another thing I think a lot of people don't realize is AI in the drug discovery is becoming a big change trend. And China is much advanced even compared to the US and Europe. The AI industry in China is much robust. And
Oh.
if that is another career many people don't know. But if you can make a salary wise, their salary range is high because there is a talent, there is a limited talent available for those skills. The
Yeah.
no AI, no pharma, no Chinese. These are a lot of complex skill set you require. But if you have it,
Yeah.
it's easy to find a job. You can make quite a good money compared to the
Yeah.
rest of the fields. So those are the another field I would say. Another thing is business, import, export. These are always going to be there because China is a manufacturing hub for a lot of
Yeah.
chemicals, lot of medicines, and so on. And for the collaboration, there is always going to be opportunity because you're not gonna develop the antibiotic industry in India over the next 10 years, right? You still have to buy
Yeah.
from China. Um, so those are the opportunities going to be there. So the business is definitely, I think, going to be there for import, export, and the collaboration and partnership. um,
Yeah.
Another thing is the new drug industry is more developing. I think the more and more collaboration will happen between the China and the international market, especially the Europe and US and Japan and Korea and all those countries. In fact,
Yeah.
I've seen recently the Indian
Yeah.
farmers have hired one person to licensing from China. I've seen at
We.
least 5 to 10 companies doing that recently. Last 4 months, last 8 to 10 months. So obviously there is a partnership opportunity available. Otherwise, why would some pharma would hire someone for partners licensing the molecule, right? So this
Oh.
is another new things. But right, I think to sum it up, basically, the business development is there, opportunity is there, licensing opportunities there, R&D collaboration certainly would be there. Also
Yeah.
clinical trial happen in the majority of clinical trial happen in Australia, India, US, Europe. So there is also
Yeah.
clinical trial opportunities there. There are a lot of opportunities, but it's changing little bit. It's changing market trends. So you have to keep up with the trend in order to have a right collaboration and partnership opportunity.
Wow. Interesting. I didn't know of this India and China collaboration in wow. Then that is a great future ahead.
Right, right.
Interesting. So I know so many foreigners will be watching, and so many people have in mind to also work in the pharmaceutical industry in China. You being an expert and having so many experience working in the pharmaceutical industry in China, what advice will you give to these kind of people?
No, I think the advice would be, I think that's the one of the things you must familiar with the new trends and techniques, right? New
Oh,
molecules and everything. So knowledge is important. A lot
knowledge.
of in our industry, you know that the pharmaceutical industry, even though it's a medicine, the medicine industry is changing dramatically.
Yeah.
From from small molecule to biologics, from biologics to we have a, even in the biotechs we have antibody, we have a cell therapy, CAR-T,
Yes.
and it's a quite a big field and it's changing quite fast. And
Yeah.
if you must familiar with the trends, you must have knowledgeable. That is a number one. I think there is a no
The
negotiation
trend.
down there, because even if you're in R&D, you must know, or even if you're in the business world, you should know. So that is a one
Yeah.
part of it. Second part of it is a building a network is important.
Networking.
As you can see, me, I've been be speaking to 8 to 10 people on a weekly basis, from the different parts of the world, right? And the
Yes.
network building, networking is very very important. You must have a good people skill, if you really want to in the business field in the pharmacy. But even in the R&D, it's good
Yeah.
to have a good network. That way, to find a job, to collaborate, it's make it much more easy. So I think building a network is one of the important things. And finally, I think
Wow.
it's just get things done, being a bit more disciplined and get things done. Whatever you do, uh, is it R&D or business side, it doesn't matter. At the end, it's
Yeah.
one of those jobs. You have to get things done.
Yeah. Wow. Interesting. Well, thank you for this advice, and I know it will be useful to so many people, and even not anybody, to I myself personally. So you mentioned you had your family, other family relatives, all into diamond business, jewelry, and you were into the pharmacy industry. You have been the unique and, let me say, the odd one out.
Right.
After
Right.
venturing into the pharmacy industry and flashing back, do you think it's really worth it venturing into the pharmacy industry?
Yeah, I mean, from my side, I from the beginning of my childhood, that is what I wanted to do. Yeah, and I enjoy doing it.
Yeah.
And as long as I think and the pharmacy industry is quite unique. You learn every day something new. As you know, we have a few groups. We share a lot of contents every day.
Yeah.
There is a never dull moment in science. Yeah, you always learn something new. There is always challenge. There is always something to do new. So this industry is quite unique. I enjoy it completely. Yeah, so I wouldn't probably go back to those routes. I mean, obviously I respect the family business and family. I support them obviously entirely. But I think
Yeah.
even we had as a family discussion multiple times, that I would focus mainly in the medicine. That is my main focus for entire life, because that is what my main skill set, right? Another
Yeah.
funny story. When I was
Yeah.
young, we were young with my brother. My brother, at very young age, he catched up
Yes.
the diamond skill very early on. Even at the
Oh.
age of probably school days, he can easily figure out the real diamond. But in my case, I couldn't.
Oh.
um,
Oh.
because my mindset was not there from the beginning days. So probably
Yeah.
obviously I helped them quite a lot on the business side of it. But the medicine will be always on my heart. I would always stick to the medicine. That is what I know. That's where I think I spend majority of my life. And once you spend your entire life on one thing, you become expert on that field. Right? So
Yeah.
uh,
Exactly. Yeah.
right. So probably, and it's a very rewarding industry. As a pharma industry is a rewarding industry. If you really work hard, it's more than diamond.
Wow.
Right. Right.
Wow. Interesting. It's really indeed more than a diamond.
Right.
Thank you so much for sharing so much with us and your experience. And I know there will be so many people who would like to even contact you, as you said, networking, people who would like to venture into the pharmaceutical industry in China, and so many things. In case somebody wants to reach you, where can they reach you? How can they contact you?
Yeah, I think the best way to reach me is a LinkedIn. Obviously, the LinkedIn is quite I used on the regular
Easy.
basis.
Yes.
Another would be that people can connect me on my email. My email address is pinkesh.ai@hotmail.com. Um, that is my
Okay.
personal email. Obviously, work email I'm not sharing at the moment, but that's two option is quite easily available. But I think LinkedIn is the best option right now for us to connect with other people.
Wow, interesting. Thank you very much for sharing your contacts. And I know people reach you for more collaborations and more and more networking in the pharmaceutical industry. Mr. Pinkesh, you have done so much and you have invested so much in the pharmaceutical industry. Most especially, you have helped bridge the gap in foreigners and Chinese in the pharmaceutical industry, especially where they have a big language barrier. Thank you for being a bridge, breaking that barrier to enable foreign investors, people who are thinking of in the future coming, investing in the pharmaceutical industry in China, helping them to have that mindset. And I really appreciate your time for coming and being willing to share your experience. And I can't wait to have you in the future for us to still talk more about life in China and so many things on this platform. Before we even leave end this live, I would like you to share your last words with our audience. And before we even leave, to our viewers who will be watching pre-recorded, every week we bring special guests to you. Stay tuned. Most especially, we are talking about everything in China since we are based in China. What are your last words, sir?
So thank you very much, Dax, for having me on this podcast. It was a really enjoying moment. I really like your questioning. You're amazing. You're doing amazing job. People out there,
Thank you.
watch out for this guy. He's bringing a lot of content, useful content on his channel. Please do watch him, and feel free to connect us anytime. But thank you very much, Dax, and thank you very much everyone who joined us today.
Yeah, wow. Thank you very much. Before we leave, I have one last question. In Ghana, we like titles so much. So you call, oh, this person is a pharmacist. So I don't know how to address you, whether I should address you as a pharmacist, as a director, or a business mogul. Which one do you prefer?
No, BD guy. Yeah, BD guy is certainly. I prefer to be BD guy. I mean, uh, one day I would like to be entrepreneur, but at the moment, I think I'm doing good job at bringing medicine. I think that is where into the commerce. That is where I think my main focus would be for several years. So yeah, BD guy is definitely BD guy.
Wow, interesting. So thank you very much, our BD guy,
Thank you,
for
Dex.
coming
Thank you.
for this podcast, and we can't wait to have you more in the future. See you next time.
See
Bye
you.
bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye, Dex. Bye bye.